You're now listening to the Pitchside Peregrines Podcast, your home for all things Athletic Club Boise.
All right, everybody. Before we get into today's episode, quick shout out to KJO Insurance, the first sponsor of the Pitchside Peregrines Podcast. Look, insurance premiums suck, but your coverage doesn't have to. They know Idaho and the Pacific Northwest, and they'll actually find you a deal that makes sense. DM them on Instagram at KJO Insurance with Pitchside, or call 208-883-4800 and tell them Kyle and Elias sent you. All right, let's talk some AC Boise.
Welcome, everybody, into the latest installment of Scouting Our Prey, where this week Kyle and I dive into AV Alta, or Antelope Valley Alta FC, Athletic Club Boise's next opponent here in the USL One schedule. Welcome in. We are excited to dive into this with you all.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting contest down there in Southern California if the game even gets played. Apparently, it's supposed to be some pretty gnarly weather. Could remind us of Sarasota. I was talking to my parents today, and apparently the whole state of California is just like floods and wind and lightning. Yeah, so could be. We may not play this game. I hope we do. I was looking at the weather in Lancaster specifically, and they could have like 30, 40 mile an hour winds. So yeah, could be an interesting game if it gets played, but obviously we hope it does.
Yeah, we hope it does. It is our probably latest match of the entire season, be it Antelope Valley is the only team, I think, in USL One that is on the Pacific time zone at the moment. Spokane might be. So maybe a Spokane away game will be around that time as well. But 8:30 local kickoff. So take some caffeine, drink some coffee if you're into that. But we want to get right into learning about this team. We did reach out to a fellow USL One creator, the Tumbleweed Times, and I think a lot of the following information is through conversations with him and he gave his perspective on the team this year. So really appreciate him and all that he does. He doesn't have any podcasts, but he does have an amazing Substack and articles that he writes about the club. So if you do ever want to learn more about AV Alta, or if you have family like Kyle does in the greater California area and want to give them someone to root for, check out our friends over at the Tumbleweed Times. But Kyle, we were looking at this team today, and I think their record from the outside looking in looks like this could be a trap game. AV Alta has not recorded a victory this season yet. It's been 3 draws, 2 defeats, and the underlying statistics are not agreeing with that record. So, Kyle, let's maybe just do a quick overview of that and maybe give our viewers an understanding or an explanation of what this XG, expected goals statistic is about.
Yes, so this is the nerd side of football or soccer. It's XG, and people talk about XG a lot, and essentially XG is just an aggregate of the quality of chances a team has had throughout the game. So if a team has an XG of 2, say they have an XG of 2, that could mean they had 2 basically gimme shots throughout the entire game. So it's like you literally have a tap in, and that should give you an XG of 2. And I think a penalty is an XG of like 0.75 or 0.8. Or you could have 20 shots that are all 0.1, and that therefore adds up to. So are you likely to score any of those 20 shots? Well, you have about a 10% chance. So, but it still adds up to an XG of 2. So XG is not a perfect metric, but it still gives you an idea of kind of how you've played a game. And I think AV Alta so far has been the team where the performance has not met the result. They've played a lot better than a team who's only gotten 3 points from 5 games, and they're currently sitting 14th. And they've only had 1 away game, so they've had 4 home games, and then 1. I think they played at home against the U.S. Open Cup team that they played, which was a loss. And another game where they did win, kind of the XG game. So yeah, they are a team. They are a team who is under resulted their performance. I guess they performed okay, but obviously at the end of the day, you need to put the ball in the back of the net, and you need to score, and you need to XG can inform a game. It's not how you win a game. Like you can win a game on point 0.1 XG. You can
Hmm.
still win that game. So it's a good information, it's good information, but it's still you need to convert those chances. So I like to look at it, but it's not the be all end all for sure.
Yeah, I think XG is a great maybe quick snapshot of how did the game actually play out. Is this score true to what it looks like for maybe a blowout 4-0 victory? It could show that the XG was truly like 2.1 to 1.3. It was just two of those goals were just goalie mistakes and the ball rolled in, which is a low XG chance. I think the biggest surprise is their 1-3 loss to Union Omaha. XG was actually 2.7 to 1.3 AV Alta, meaning that they were supposed to, according to XG, had better chances throughout that game. So, uh, long story short, they don't have any wins, but a lot of their games are very competitive. They have a lot of chances. So look for our defense, and the starting goalie we're assuming is still Joseph Endema to be tested often.
Yeah, we'll
If
we'll get
the
into
ball
we'll
is
dive into that more.
Yeah. So they also did unfortunately get a cup set. One of the few USL teams who got cup set in the US Cup did lose to a UPSL, which is United Premier Soccer League,
Yep.
Team Valley 559.
Yes, so they may sound kind of, they may be a UPSL team, but apparently a lot of those players who are on that team are old members of the Fuego FC team,
Mm,
which was a USL League One team a few years ago. So these guys are former professionals who've just, I guess stuck around Fresno.
yeah. Yeah, I will say only other thing about their schedule is they have played similar to Athletic Club Boise. They've played two of probably the top end teams in Spokane and Omaha in back-to-back weeks. Uh, they
And
have,
Portland.
yeah,
Portland is
Portland
maybe
who
underperformed this season so far.
exactly. So if you're looking at the record, you see 0-3-2, not a win on the board. Um, Hopefully Athletic Club Boise doesn't look at the record and just looks at film and doesn't maybe play down to the competition in this match. But the only thing we do have is they once again played a midweek match against Spokane, I think on Tuesday of this week. So they aren't on a full week's rest like Athletic Club Boise is, but they have played 5 total games. So more miles under their tires, but also more recent competition to hopefully be low on gas, let's just call it, for a Saturday night clash.
Yeah.
Um, Kyle, as
Do
we
you
do
want?
with all, oh, go ahead.
Yep. No, 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 no. I was gonna see if you want me to jump into a little bit of history on them.
Oh yeah, give us some history. They are, it sounds like a newly minted team in the USL One. So give us that
Yeah,
background.
yeah, absolutely. So this is their second season. So they're based out of Lancaster. For those who don't know where Lancaster, California is, and their name refers to it, AV, which is Antelope Valley, which is about an hour north of LA. So they're in the desert. It's basically a big suburb of Los Angeles, and yeah, so they definitely are right there in that California kind of hotbed of talent. Because let's face it, California talent when it comes to soccer is pretty phenomenal. So their head coach is also known for being like a kind of like a player development specialist, rather than a tactical, manager. So I mean, obviously, I'm not saying he's not tactically smart. All managers are. I'm just saying that his specialty is in that youth kind of player development realm. But yeah, so they play in Lancaster. It is in an old, it's no longer a minor league baseball stadium. They've converted it into a soccer specific stadium, where the capacity now is about 6,000. They did average around 4,100 last
Yeah.
year. So they've had, I mean, that's decent attendance for this level. It's definitely decent attendance, a lot better than a lot of the, bigger clubs and more established clubs. So it looks like they've really embedded themselves in the community, and Antelope Valley. They have a lot less people than Boise does. The Treasure Valley, the metro area, we're 800,000 throughout the Treasure Valley. They're only at like 350, kind of in that
Hmm.
area. And you don't get that many people going up that direction. Not many people are going to go from LA unless they live up there. They're not going to go from LA to Lancaster to watch these
Hmm.
games. So it's like they're just pulling the people from that area. No one's kind of traveling from out of town to go watch them. So they've done a good job of really kind of energizing the locals there, which is obviously what we're trying to do here. So I think if we can replicate kind of the percentage, that's a decent percentage of the stadium being filled every game, around a little bit over 66%, closing on 70%, which that's great. They were founded in 2023 by a guy named John Smelter, who was involved in the FIFA World Cup coming to the US back in '94, I believe it was. Back in 1994, that was the first and only time we'd had it at the time. Um,
Tickets were probably a lot cheaper to go to a game back then.
yeah, I think everything was a lot cheaper back then. But yeah, especially tickets and hotels and everything and
Yeah.
jerseys and life. Life in general is probably a lot cheaper. Take me back when I was 2. You weren't even born yet, you baby. But yeah, as I had mentioned, they are a newer team. They're founded in 23. Last year was their first year playing in 2025. They finished ninth. Not bad. They had a -5 goal difference on the year, 8 wins, 12 draws, and 10 losses. So not terrible.
Yeah, if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
their ninth place position came down to the last day. I think it was four teams were available to make the eighth and last playoff spot, and AV Alta was in the hunt. And I think they missed. I want to say they missed based on goal difference with another
Oh
club.
no, no, I
So
did not know that. That's no
yeah, I
bueno.
when we were watching the end of the last season, I remember I think it was them and Richmond and maybe one other team were all
Mm,
kind of neck and neck to wrap up the season. So they didn't make the playoffs, but they were right on the cusp of making the playoffs last year.
yeah, nice. I know Elias, you have a soft spot for AV Alta's kits because they
Yeah.
are they are nice. They are their primary color. So their name, number one, their name is really cool. AV Alta is like US soccer has a ton of unique names, but they all can kind of lean into being a little gimmicky. I feel like this is a good balance of being unique while not gimmicky. Like AB Alta just has a good flow, AV being Antelope Valley. Alta did kind of confuse me there for a little bit, but the way that the club kind of said it's like, oh, it's related to, we're in the high desert and it's related to like altitude.
Hmm.
And we have a big aerospace presence. I think there's an Air Force base or a military base close by, and apparently that's what the region before it became California, before it was a part of the United States. Apparently that was what the region was also referred to. So yeah, it's a unique name. Their badge is nice. It's a kind of like a tannish, not.
I'll put it on the screen for people to see.
Yeah, there we go. But no, it's nice, and their kits, they're also a Hummel. They're also a Hummel
Yeah.
kit manufacturer, and no, they're really nice. They have some really nice stuff. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
am a
I can't complain.
professing sucker for centered logos and collared kits,
Yeah.
and they happen to have both in this same kit. I'll put their
Hmm.
home kit on the screen right now for our video audience, and there's not much to say about it besides this is just Elias's dream kit, and it comes in long sleeve, which I think is something that is even more enticing to add to the collection. So their away kit similar, a lot better than Omaha's, which is our last one of these that we did and included kits. Um, love the home and away combos here and love the collars. So,
Hmm.
anyone from Against or the club who's looking at doing next year's kits, at least from Elias here, wouldn't say no to a collar to be on the kits. It is just such
Yeah.
a
Wouldn't
beautiful
say
addition.
no, wouldn't say no to a collar, wouldn't say no to some long sleeves. Let's make
Yes,
it happen.
yes,
But
yes.
yeah, we can kind of jump into I briefly mentioned their head coach. His name is
Hmm.
Brian Kleban. He was appointed in 2024 when the team was first announced before they ever kicked the ball. He's been around coaching for a long time. Again, he kind of specializes in youth development, which is perfect for a team in that area. He spent time with the LA Galaxy. He spent time with Barcelona, the Argentinian national team, and LAFC. So a
Oh,
little bit of right, not many people spend time with the rivals, but yeah. So he was with LAFC and LA Galaxy, and it was a question that I kind of wanted to ask Tumbleweed Times, but I didn't get around to it. But I wanted to ask, it's like they're in such a hotbed of soccer talent in the United States, being in Southern California, and they took this coach who's main specialty is youth development. So does that put AV Alta in a better position to attract those younger players and make them a more sustainable club in this league of US soccer because they may be able to develop better players and then sell them on and could they become a selling club and just make them just so much more sustainable versus teams that may not be in as good of areas when it comes to talent development and then they don't have these assets that they can sell on. So maybe they're in a better spot when it comes to just the financial stability and sustainability as a club, just because they're going to be able to utilize and use that talent pool to their advantage.
yeah, I know Tumbleweed Times made it clear that this coach is a trust the process guy, and maybe is at times stuck in his ways, and maybe the fans of the club are getting maybe a little frustrated by that. But I think you put it right on the head. If it goes well and you can create talent that you can sell on and not just be on expiring contracts and have leave the club, like I know we will talk about their high end talent that has left this past season to USL Championship teams. That
Yeah.
is, at the end of the day, these teams are businesses and they want to be profitable and make money. And one way of doing that is selling players. So, with players, I think we could move on to some notable team players that we need to keep our eyes out for, and numbers to watch, hopefully on our screens on Saturday night. And hopefully the camera's good enough for us to see those numbers. But, Kyle, who's the first player you kind of scouted out and found as a potential threat?
Yeah, absolutely. So I snagged a couple of players that we think are going to line up in their 4-3-3, which is what we think they're going to line up in. They've also played in a 3-4-3 or a 4-1-4-1, which isn't too different to a 4-3-3. But there's four players that I wanted to mention. The first one being Cesar Bahena. So he's a new signing. He's 21, straight out of college, out of the University of San Diego. He is the highest rated player that they've had so far this season, coming in at a 7.2. So he won four straight conference titles in college, scoring over 20 goals. He has two assists so far in 5 games. Number 99, which is always fun to see. I love players that come in with like funky numbers. So he's gonna slot in either on the wing or an attacking midfield. But so far, it looks like he started every single game. Looks like a really exciting young player. Obviously, he's not a youth player, but he's a young player that looks like they may be able to develop and sell on. Hopefully, because you want teams to be able to sell players rather than letting them go for their contract expiring and moving on for free. So expect him to be in the starting lineup for sure on Saturday, and for him to cause some problems for I'm not sure what side he's going to line up on, but he may give our wingbacks and Jacob or Musa or Ricketts some problems that game.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a threat. And I think the next name we're going to mention was Tumbleweed Times best player, his quotation marks,
Hmm.
is a very, I guess, attacking player and very, he calls him small but extremely tricky dribbler, more good than great at passing, but can facilitate effectively. Played almost exclusively winger last year, but we've used him at the 10 in 2026, probably our best player. And that is number 7, Jerry Destunes. Don't know if it's French. He's Haitian, so there could be some French um, heritage in that last name. But yeah, as I mentioned, he's a winger, but plays more in like that attacking midfield number 10 role, similar to say Tumi Moshaban for our team or Dennis, kind of that everything guy, but seems to be more of a dribbler, which I don't think Athletic Club Boise has faced many aggressive dribblers, maybe against Omaha with, I want to say Gutierrez was the closest thing we had seen to maybe someone actually trying to dribble past Jonathan Ricketts or a Jake Dengler and not just kind of whip crosses in that I feel like Spokane tried to do a lot of. His SOFA score rating so far this year has been around a 7.1. Spent time in Northern Colorado while the club was still in the USL, or while a club was still there, excuse me. Um, so far, he has 6 goals, 6 assists, and 31 games with AV Alta from last year. 1 goal in 4 games so far this year. But just keep your eye out for number 7 on the pitch. From multiple sources, including us, it's someone that could cause a lot of damage and could test Endema and our backline early and often throughout the game.
Yeah. Yep. So no, yeah, he's definitely one to look out for. And yeah, as Tumbleweed Times mentioned, he's been their best player so far. So yeah, we'll see how much trouble those two guys. We could have our hands full. Like I said, so far they've just kind of underperformed their expected goals and assists. So hopefully they don't hit their stride against us. That would just be our luck. But the next guy we want to mention is number 21, Jimmy Villalobos, signed in 2025. He's 30, from the U.S. He is a central midfielder. I think he'll in the 4-3-3. It sounds like he may line up at the base of their midfield. He's clocked in at a 7 rating so far this season. He has played, I think he started all 5 games, no goals and no assists. But last year he did get 9 goal involvements with 6 goals and 3 assists in 42 games. So he had about 1 goal involvement every 4 games or so. He's been a mainstay in the USL. He's spent time with Chattanooga, one Knox, Ford, Madison. So he's been around this level for a long time. So a proven talent. May not end up on the score sheet or providing an assist, but just kind of a good presence that, and a proven talent who I expect to be in the starting lineup.
Nice. And yeah, it looks like this last player is one that maybe Nate Miller has worked with as an assistant on during his time at San Diego Loyal. That is number 10, Miguel Ibarra, is how I'd pronounce it.
Yeah,
Uh,
Ibarra. Yep.
is the from Lancaster proper, so hometown product similar to a Blake
Mhm.
Bodley. He is 36, so he's on probably the tail end of his career. 6.5 rating and has spent time all over. I feel like
Yeah.
Minnesota United while they were in
Uh,
the NASL and MLS, Club Leon for our uh, Liga MX fans, Seattle Sounders, my hometown team, and as I mentioned early on, also spent time with San Diego Loyal and the Charlotte Independence. He was on the team last year in 2025. No goals, no assists in 10 games. And again, no goals, no assists through 3. But I think this is someone who can offer a lot, Kyle.
Yeah, yeah. I think he's just someone worth mentioning. Like, how often do you get, it feels like he's probably a player who's just like, how can I not play for my hometown team?
Yeah.
He did also get 3 caps for the U.S. men's national team back in like
Wow.
2013, 2014. Back, which is when I think he was with Minnesota, or yeah, I think he was with Minnesota at the time. So yeah, I mean, obviously, very obviously on the tail end of his career. I highly doubt he's going to start. I highly doubt he's going to play more than 30 minutes. But it's guys like this where they can just like come up with like a random moment of class where it's just like
Hmm.
like a player like him can be out of form, but his quality never really goes away. It's just
Yeah.
when it shows up, and you just hope that you just hope it's not against us,
Yeah.
because all of a sudden they just pull out a magic wand and say, "I'm gonna score this absolute like
Yeah. It'll be like
banger
Seamus
from
Coleman
from."
against Leeds United in 2022, where it's like
Yes.
he just shot. Oh, he just scored. Of course.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Seamus Coleman, who's scored like 10 goals his whole career, and he's been playing like since the beginning of time.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
Well, I think that gives us at least some offensive players to keep an eye out, along with a good story and another hometown kid for notable players that are currently on the team. But there were some key departures from last year's team to this year. It looks like these two players combined for a total of 17 goals, or sorry, 13 goals, 25 total goal contributions in last year's campaign, which is a hefty amount, I would say, to lose. First one being Kyle.
Yeah, Eduardo Blancas. So he was with the team in their inaugural. Wow, that was a difficult word to say. Season. He's 24. He's an attacking midfielder from the U.S. and he was on the second team All League last year in the USL League One. He had 17 goal contributions, 11 goals and 6 assists in 34 games. So he was scoring or assisting with a goal every other game. So he was a one and done in the USL League One, and he went straight on to Monterey Bay in the USL Championship. It looks like he struggled a little bit up there in Monterey Bay. Monterey Bay as a whole is struggling, which they brought in some really talented players. So it's kind of surprising to see them still, kind of floundering there at the bottom of the table in the USL Championship. They brought in Sebastian Leggett. They brought in a player from what is it, Feyenoord in the
Hmm.
Eredivisie from the
Alone.
Netherlands. Yeah, and loan on loan, but it's like crazy that this level of talent, and obviously Eduardo's a really talented player, and they just can't get things going. So no goals and no assists in 4 games so far for Monterey Bay, but obviously there's a player there, and obviously he made the all league team for a reason. The next player is Sebastian Cruz, again, one and done, central midfielder from the U.S. Last year he had a 7.08 rating, 2 goals and 8 assists in 33 games. So, he definitely set the tempo of the game, and he ended up signing for the Tampa Bay Rowdies also in the championship. He's performed a little bit better. He started and played in 4 games down there for Tampa Bay. Comes in with a 7.08. That's pretty rare to see the exact two same ratings, different seasons. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, those are two players who obviously performed really well for AV Alta last year, and I'm sure they're missing this year as their performances probably haven't lived up to the standard that their fans hope they would be seeing.
Yeah, I know Tumbleweed Times, at least through the offseason, definitely made it abundantly clear how big of a loss these two are for the team. I think it's hard to fill holes of, as I mentioned, 25 goal contributions through assists and actually putting the goal behind the net. So they'll definitely be missed, and maybe at times, Tumbleweed Times even mentioned they are struggling to put balls into the back of the net. And maybe the wingers are missing out on having them kind of in the attacking midfield and central midfield role, but they're gone and they have to make do with what they have. So,
Mhm.
Kyle, anything you want to add to wrap up the AV Alta comparison at the moment?
Yeah, I'd love to jump into just like a quick per 90 comparison,
Yeah.
just so people can kind of get an idea of how we kind of play. So since they've played 2 more games than us, it's pretty hard to compare total statistics, but some interesting stats that I want to point out. So we are scoring more than them right now. We're averaging 1.3 goals per game, but they're averaging almost 2 more shots per game than we are. They're coming at 5.6, where we're just down there at 4. They have 2 big chances per game. We're at about 1.7. I'm surprised to see how much possession they have. They're averaging
Yeah.
62%, almost 62% possession. We're down there at 56. So like we said, they have their results have not matched their performances. So I feel like you had mentioned in the first like minute of this episode, this is a trap game. So they have more passes per game. They're coming in
Yeah.
at 440 at 88% accuracy. We're down at 425 at 85% accuracy. So maybe and they have more accurate long balls. We're only at 19. They're up at 26. So this may be a team who's they're just kind of pinging the ball around all game and
Hmm.
maintaining possession. So maybe this is a game where we come in at a much lower possession than we're used to, and we may have to set up in a better defensive shape and just hope we can kind of hit them on the counterattack. So maybe that leads to a different lineup than what we are expecting. Who knows? Maybe we come in with a more athletic lineup. So it would be interesting.
Yeah, I know that in his debrief, he mentioned that Chattanooga and I think Richmond are both teams that invite the opposition to hold possession. So that potentially might be inflating their
Mm,
possession numbers slightly. But I will be interested to see come Saturday night what the possession battle looks like with how much AC Boise did own the possession against Spokane in the home match. ending, I think, at like 70-30. So that's definitely helping that statistic. But I think this will be both teams who both press a lot and both want possession. So we'll be interested to see who wins that tug of war, let's call it, or if one team concedes and says, okay, we'll play on the counterattack, and we'll see maybe, as you mentioned, in tactical starting 11s, if that has any change in the side for Athletic Club Boise.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I think that is all we have for the scouting report for AV Alta. That's all for today's episode. If you enjoy the show, make sure to like, comment, share with a friend, and make sure you're following the show wherever you listen. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube for all updates and future content to come. If you want to help support the pod and get access to exclusive content, early episodes, and bonus perks, head over and check out our Patreon. It truly helps us keep this thing growing. Thanks again for listening. Thanks for being part of the community, and we'll catch you in the next one.